Welcome back to my channel. We have Derek here from Set Ready. If you're in the Hamilton Dundas area, he does a bunch of equipment rentals as well as production, and I got the chance to work on him with a music video, so it was cam op, but I want to bring him on to do a lighting breakdown because I know everyone loves lighting breakdowns.
Thank you, Nicole, for the invite. I chose to take on this project because I wanted to kind of itch my creative scratch. You know, I wanted to do something with a music video that I could tell a story with as a director, but I also, at the time, hadn't been shooting a ton as a DP, and I was like, I want to just try a couple things that I've been playing around with. We had some new fixtures at the time, and so I was like, I want to DP this project and direct it. But full disclaimer, I mean, I am a director, not a DP, but I love the idea of visually creating projects, and that's where, you know, this was super fun, and thankfully, you know, we got to work on this together, and so let's dive into it. So this music video was for a band called Buck 20. It was a country pop style song, and I had some crazy ideas from a director standpoint that I wanted to execute. So I decided it'd be a best fit, not only just for the budget, but for my ideas to be the director and the DP on this project.
We have the iPad set up. We're going to do some drawings on here, but the very first scene that we're going to break down is the kitchen scene, and this was all taking place in one house, and so we had to move things around. We had the kitchen, we had a bedroom, we had a U-Haul as well, we had something exterior. So there was a lot of moving pieces, right? And there was also a lot of, not a lot of space within the house, as well as outside of the house. So we'll get into that a little bit later, but I will let Derek take it away.
From a lighting standpoint, there was some looks that I wanted to achieve. We were doing multiple setups, and like Nicole said, space was tight. It was a very, very small house, but it looked like we needed it for the different elements of the video. So let's start with our first kitchen scene here. On the outside of this house, we had about a 4-foot window to put lights. It was a shared pathway with another house. So it was really limiting on my original ideas of putting a few lights outside and having them come in through the window. And that just, it wouldn't work space-wise. So, you know, luckily we have a 100-centimeter CRLS kit. We put one of those light bridges up and bounced our light into it. And ultimately, this is probably the best decision when shooting lights from outside to inside, because it helps with that inverse square law. You know, you have your first person here, you have your second person. If you were to shine a light directly from outside to inside, what would happen is you would just get a lot of light on the first person, and then the inverse square law would take effect, and your second person would have less light. Mm-hmm. And so when you put it into a mirror, that changes how light refracts and comes into your scene. And so you have a little bit more even spread on your subjects. Now, for me, you know, this is step one, bringing light into the room because it was dark. It was a dark, gloomy winter day. So we need to bring that ambience up. So we bring some light in from outside for our subjects, and then we need to bring some light into our background. So we do the exact same thing we do for our subjects in the background. That gives us a bit of an ambient fill. Yeah, I think it was a Nanlux 1200 bounced into the 100-centimeter Lightbridge CRLS. Mm-hmm. Probably diff 2 on the CRLS, I'm guessing. I don't usually opt for diff 1 because it's a little bit too harsh, so probably diff 2. Best case scenario for this probably would have been to have a couple other little smaller reflectors outside in addition to the big one. So we got a little bit more sun kisses on the inside, but we didn't have time for that. Mm-hmm. So we've set our ambient level now in this scene. Now the subjects are really like my focus. They're feeling just kind of washed out in the darkness. So we need to add a little bit of, you know, a little bit of level to them without front lighting it, because we don't have anywhere to rig. There's nowhere beside the frame to add a side key.
And you're on a 12 mil, so you're seeing everything. Like there's no spot to actually put fixtures and fake it and cheat things in and, you know, avoid it. And this is also a very quick shot. So you were like, okay, let's light it as best as we can. And then when we push in for closer shots, then you can kind of bring in the panels and like accentuate it a little bit. If your lighting's not completely matching from the wide to the medium close up, like people get the gist, right? It's a creative music video. It's not going to be like side by side, so yeah, you can be flexible. But yeah, just to give context, that's why we didn't really have too much flexibility in terms of lighting the actual house. It was that creative decision of, okay, we want this 12 mil kind of funky, like to just really show all the motion when you're pushing in. So yeah, you got to be flexible. If it's super wide, there's not a lot to do, right?
No.
And then when you move closer in, that's when there's a little bit more.
And the trick is, I mean, I wanted it wide. I mean, I was the director on this project, so as the DP, I can't yell at the director and be like, "We gotta go." I was like, "No, we gotta do the widest lens possible." You know, 12 mil on a full frame camera is wide.
Yep.
So, you know, knowing that, I was like, let's make this one look natural and then beauty it up in our close-ups. So we lit our wide. We've got the sun kiss coming in. We add in a 3x5 light matte. We add in a 3x5 IntelliTech. On them, we try to push it off to the side, we boom it out a little bit, and we get a little bit more level on them. And now I'm looking at the corners of my frame. Again, we'll only see this for like seconds, but this area was feeling very dark. And so to me, you know, to do something fast in a situation like that is just turn on different lights in the room and see what doesn't look washed out, but is still giving you, you know, a little highlight here of something that we can see. So we turned on the lights. I found the one that worked. It added a little bit of ambience. It added a little highlight spot. And now, you know, that side of the room is filled out. And now we pretty it up in the close-ups. So the close-up of this shot here, we don't have a lot of time to make those like big changes. So we're still relying on a lot of the lighting setup from the wide. But what we are doing is we're bringing in certain elements to modify how the lighting looks. So our key, we're able to bring that in closer because we're on a more of a medium frame. So that's coming in, we're matching it up against the wall. We're getting that nicer, you know, look on his face here. We've got the nice shadow fall off. Then, you know, we're looking at, okay, should we add in a bit more shadow to the frame? So we brought in a 12x12 floppy. That's just off to the side, just getting rid of that bounce that we would have saw in the wide, making sure that we have that clean image. On the left side, we have our key, and then on the right side, we have our neg. Basic fundamentals of lighting is just trying to make sure that your key's coming from one side, you have some highlight accents, and then you have your neg. This didn't really require too much changes. Where we really get into the big changes is when we have the same scene, same lights, same day, same actors, and we're trying to pull off, you know, this more nighttime-y, different vibe shot. And to me, this is where, you know, without a big lighting change and shooting minutes later, this is a bit harder to do. Now, is it done perfectly? No, but with a little white balance shift in your lights, a little white balance shift in your camera, you're kind of able to achieve what perceptively we think is nighttime or different day. And also the mood of the music video changed to be, you know, this is supposed to be sad. So I was going for, you know, very more Ozark vibes, trying to play in those blue tones, letting the skin fall to more blue, and then really just using our daylight lights and then white balancing down a little bit. I think I even added, because they're bicolor lights, I added a little bit more blue into them to really sell that this was nighttime. The hard part about, you know, nighttime or sad tones, this wasn't really supposed to be fully night, but I didn't want it to be too hard either. So our previous shot had some hard textures. This one I tried to pull away the hard textures and do a little bit more softer. The problem is, I mean, it was daytime, so you're gonna see that it was daytime, and we just kind of embraced that for that shot. But this shot here, you know, when you get into those close-ups, to me, most important thing in a close-up, you see that eye light, you know, and whether that's your key light or a little light that you're bouncing in, you just need a little bit of something in the eyes, especially just when the image is very dark. I like to have a little bit of eye light. I probably would have liked to see a little bit less reflection and maybe a bounce of light into his eyes, but we were moving pretty quickly, and I'll forgive myself for that. The other thing that I'm looking for in this frame here is we're catching a little bit of that window, so that we don't just have a flat wall. There's a little bit of an accent in the background, and then we have shape on his face. So if we pulled this up in false color, you know, you have your shadow side, you have your key side. Our ratios kind of match throughout the video for the most part, and then, you know, we're seeing another little bit of a highlight kick on this side here, and that to me, you know, balances out the frame. Our focus is the person. It doesn't take away too much from the visuals that we've already shot, but this does live in a different world, which it's supposed to for the context of the story. in this scene here, which ends up being our opening scene, is we show the bedroom multiple times, again, throughout the video. This is supposed to feel like nighttime. And again, we shot this during the day, so you're doing, a day for night. As soon as I opened up this window here, I 100% could tell it was daytime. Like, there was no...
cheating it,
There was nothing. I was like, even if we tented this out, it didn't look natural. So my idea was like, okay, let's maybe use what's already there. They have these blinds, and let's try to just make our key from outside feel blue. So we had like a Dyno 650 bounced into an 8x8 Ultra Bounce, and that's just kind of filling the whole outside with that blue tone that we perceptively think is nighttime. And that blue tone matches some of the shots later in the music video as well too. So just kind of keeping that blue specific.
Do you always start with lighting like the windows? Like if you're walking into a room, you're like, okay, I have a window here, but it's supposed to be night. How do I fake this so that it looks like night? So you work like outside. And then for me, what I would have done also is just see what the practicals are doing in the situation, because these are like nailed to the headboard, right? Like they're already there. So is that the next thing that you did, is like, okay, where are practicals, and where are we gonna fake the motivation from the practicals? Or like, do you key them first and then move it around to where your practicals are?
I think it depends a little bit on the room. Usually I like to key them off of a practical if we're not using outside as our key.
Right, because you already negate, like you can't have a fake moonlight coming in, so that's off the table. How are you gonna key them? Is it like a fake ceiling light, or exactly.
So you have to really look in the room and be like, okay, what can we use as a key? And in this situation, the bed was really big, the room was really small. So I was like, okay, you know what, let's do a little bit of make-believe and say that there's another lamp somewhere, camera left, and it's keying them here. And for me, that was a sell enough to be like, okay, we'll put the little 3x5 up, it'll go onto them, it fills them in enough, and then really we need to add in those practicals. And like you said, I mean, we couldn't change this light, like those were mounted to the wall, we're not removing them. So you have two options. You can try to use the bulbs that are in them, or you can play around with putting like Roscoe DMGs or Aperture MCs in that and using that as the key, which honestly, I think that's what we ended up doing, because we were able to dim it down and get the look we were going for in the color. But leaving them, you get this nice reflection here. That's a nice little highlight pop. You have depth in your image. We're on a Dana dolly, so we're pushing in. Overall, I think, this shot serves the purpose. I think I would have maybe brought their level up a little bit. The problem I find is, like, as soon as you bring their level up, it's like, where is that light coming from? Where is that mysterious lamp? But
and then you get more into the commercially side of things too, where you lose the shadow side a bit. It's all very high key, and this is supposed to be kind of happy, right? Like they're reflecting on memories and stuff, so it should also align with whatever your script is saying. Like if, like you said before, with the blue and the sad, like you have to connect the colors and like the overall ratios and the levels to what the story is saying. So
100%. And I think playing with white balance, like this one feels pretty neutral. Our other scenes kind of go dramatic in some directions. So this one feels pretty balanced, white balance wise. Another really good cinematography trick is books. If you can find a white page in a book, it's going to reflect light and bounce that back onto your subject. So without that book, you're not getting the fill on the shadows under here. Or here, because it's all just falling off the darkness. So I always try to find something that I can bounce light off of that fits the scene. So when we were going through art and props on the day of, I was like, that's not really doing the thing I wanted to, because it's not bringing back up the level. So trying to pick something that has like an all white page is a pretty notable trick that I try to use in a lot of my like darker scenes.
would you ever actually like intentionally have a spotlight mount into it? Like, would you shine to get? I guess that would be more of a magical thing. Like, it'd be more of a gag. You know what I mean? Like, you'd see it. I wonder, like, if that would help at all, even if it was at like 1 or 2%.
You definitely can. The the best way to do a light into a book or whatever is having it bounce. And
Yeah,
that way the
exactly.
light bounces and then it comes off more natural. For this scene, I don't know if it was a time thing or like I was happy with the level in their face. It would have been cool to option though, because like it does bring up the level on people's faces a lot better.
Yeah.
And especially in dark scenes. But I mean, she has enough level on her face that when we get in for the close-ups, we bring our key a little bit closer, and you would never know that the key was so far away and this wide.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm glad we didn't shoot this one on a 12 mil. This one would have been really hard.
Yeah. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed that. It was very cool to break down the stills after actually being on set and seeing it come to fruition. So if you guys have any suggestions or comments or things that you might have done differently, please leave them down below. We're always like learning and open to new ideas. Thank you to Derek. Again, if you have any rental needs and you're in the Dundas Hamilton area, it is set ready. The link is down below. Rent any of these CRLS panels that we used as well. And that's pretty much it. Subscribe, like, share, comment, and I will see you guys in the next one. See ya.